Welcome back to On Air with Dr. Pete. I'm your host, Dr. Pete Economo, and I am so glad to be here with you today, like always, like every Friday. You all know how much I love dogs. You hear me talk about them all the time, and even as a psychologist, I'll say I like dogs better than humans, but let's keep that between us. So I knew that when I first learned about this story, we wanted to bring Chris Bingham on. He is a federal police officer with more than 23 years service. So thank you for that, Chris, including 17 years working in canine operations. He served as a canine commander for his unit, working with and retiring 3 canines. So we're going to talk about that, while playing a key role in supporting national security efforts. So he comes to us today with an incredible retired dog, Tambo. But we're going to learn about Tambo's and his inspirational story. But Tambo's just chilling right now. He's not actually going to be on camera or he's not going to talk to us at all, right, Chris?
No. As I was saying before we came on air, Pete, I'm in a big historic house, so we're getting him to 11-year-old dog with fighting cancer right now up the stairs might have been a little challenging. So,
what kind of dog for our listeners?
He's a German Shepherd.
Yeah, were all of them German Shepherds?
No, my first two were. My first one was a Belgian Malinois, and his name was Rex.
What is that?
They're bred for working. A lot of departments use them. They were historically used for herding dogs, and over time, a lot of police departments started going to them for the working breed with the drive and the hunt that they have, which is incredible.
Nice. That was your first dog?
Yeah, that was my first dog, and then Tina was my second dog. She was a all-black German Shepherd and Malinois mix.
Beautiful. Yeah. Okay, and then now Tambo.
Tambo, traditional German Shepherd, very, very, very stout, stubborn. So
all 3 of them had their different personalities.
They do, and that's the amazing thing about dogs in general is they all have their own amazing, quirky personalities, and and I would tell handlers all the time, getting able to work different dogs makes you better because not all of them are the same, and they all have their own little quirks and the way they work. So it's really cool to kind of go through the whole platform of working a dog throughout their career.
Yeah, I have 3 dogs. So I've got Tabitha, who's a Border Collie mix. So she was a rescue. And then Marco is a Terrier mix. So he's Pit and Jack Russell. And then I got Ricardo, who is a pandemic puppy. So he's a purebred Border Collie. So they are pains in the butts. They are too smart for their own good. But talk about handling. I mean, he needs to be worked.
Yes, yeah. A lot of dogs need jobs, and even in retirement, Tambo's very regimented still in his retirement.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we're going to learn about that. So, share. How'd you first get involved in canine service?
So I was working with my agency that I'm with now, and we had some openings on our SWAT team and then canine, and I was gonna apply for both, and the canine one came up first, and I was the guy growing up that I'd go to the family get-togethers, and I'd beeline right for where the dog was at the party, and I'd be hanging out with the dogs more than the relatives. So my mom always said I needed to do something with dogs.
Yeah. Were you ever afraid of dogs ever?
Oh no. I've always had a good connection with animals. I've naturally connected with them, and so when an opening came up, I felt like it was a natural fit. So I was able to get on our unit pretty early on in my career.
Yeah, that was me. We in psychology we call that a projection, because I had this like little period of my life where I was afraid of dogs, like young, and then now like I'm not afraid of dogs at all. I mean, my friend has a Doberman, and before we knew how crazy he was, I was like taking him out in the field by myself, and now no one else can handle him, like except for the owner, but. Yeah, so that's your involvement in it, but like maybe just even describe the canine program for listeners. They may not even know what that is.
Yeah, so a traditional canine unit for a department is going to consist of usually, obviously, detection work, which can be explosive, narcotics, electronics, with some departments, and then you have the patrol side of thing, which is the apprehension side of tracking, trailing, stuff like that for suspects, for senior citizens, lost children, stuff like that. So depending on the departmental need of what type of canines they want, that's kind of how it's structured, and that's kind of how they've been utilized over time.
Okay, that's probably helpful. And so it was Tina. The first 2 were Tina and
Rex.
Rex. Okay. I don't
Yep.
know. I don't know why I remember. I like human names for dogs, so that's why Tina really stuck. But Rex said it's like so you had them, and then you thought you weren't going to be assigned another one, and then you had this unique opportunity.
Yeah, so I those two retired those two, and I had taken an assignment out in Hawaii, and they both had retired. Rex was 14, and he had passed away from cancer,
Mm.
and then Tina had passed away like a year after Rex, which was tough. So I lost both of them within a span of a year, and any handler will tell you, saying goodbye to your canine partner
Oh
is one of the hardest things in the world to
yeah.
go through. So I left our canine unit, took some leadership positions, was thriving in that, and then the
Hmm.
opportunity to come back as our canine commander came open, and I had to jump at it. Although I was a little hesitant because I knew if I got the opportunity to take another dog, I didn't want to go through the pain of losing them again. If that makes sense, because we historically outlive our dogs, and
Yeah.
and going through that twice was extremely tough for me.
Yeah, I mean that totally makes sense. And any listener who has a dog, that they're going to connect with that. What I will say from a mindfulness perspective is that in the present moment, the attachment that you have and how they bring us to the present moment, and you don't. I mean, I always encourage people not do something because of the future, and so we're going to
Hmm.
learn about this. So you know, Tambo was incredible, or is incredible, and he was misunderstood. He was guarded. He was like the forgotten dog. Um,
Yeah,
so
so
yeah,
so that story is interesting because I came back as the commander, and our division chief, which was a friend of mine who I came up with in Canine. First thing I asked when I got on is like, "Hey, when am I getting a dog?" And she's like, "You're going to be too busy. You're not getting a dog." And so we would banter back and forth for a year,
yeah,
and it was the same running joke. Hey, when am I getting a dog? She's like, "Nope, you're too busy."
yeah.
And then one day I went in there again, and we were a little short on the team, and she's like, "Okay, you want a dog? You got to take Tambo." And I paused, and the story on Tambo was he was with two other handlers
Yeah.
and could not connect. Was known as very aloof, guarded, stubborn,
Hmm.
and he's probably, we had about 40 dogs on our team, and he was
Hmm.
probably the dog I interacted with the least,
Yeah.
had the least amount of interaction with, and so I took some hesitation in saying that I would take him, and then I quickly thought about it and said that I'm up for the challenge, and I just remember that first day getting him out of the kennel, looking at him, Pete, and saying, wow, this dog is seeing in his eyes how guarded he is, how aloof. And then I said to myself, I'm looking in a mirror. I'm I'm,
Yeah.
I'm looking at myself.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, maybe this is meant to be after all.
Wow. How'd
Yeah,
you
and
come
that
to that? How'd you come to that realization?
just kind of looking at him, and I've always been the guy that sometimes misunderstood. I'm
Yeah.
more reserved and quiet, and sometimes people misunderstand me, and I've had those labels before, and then I'm looking at this dog in that moment, and it just kind of hit me, and at that time I said, maybe this is something much bigger. We were meant to come together, but it was just ironic that
Hmm.
was a dog that really the dog that nobody talked about on the unit, that just bounced around, and here I am, him and I staring at each other, and that was the start of something much bigger.
Don't they say not to stare at a dog?
Well, I mean, he
Oh.
didn't he didn't mind. With these dogs, you have
Yeah.
to, if I always say, if you don't establish yourself as the alpha with
You're
these
the alpha.
dogs,
Yeah.
they'll be sleeping in the bed, and you'll be on the floor. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's really so. When you said 40 dogs, I had this like image in my head that popped up of like a Cesar Milan, or like a field of all, like do they all see each other, and or do they get along with the other working dogs?
yeah, well, all the dogs kind of have that, male or female, that we have, kind of have that alpha personality. So they all
Okay.
want to, when one dog's out and they see the other one working, they're all getting jealous, and they're all kind of barking,
Okay.
and they all want to, claim that wherever you're training or working, they want to claim that area as their own. So, but for the most part, most of them get along. Sometimes you get two alpha males together, and
Yeah.
for whatever reason, they're just not going to get along, just like humans, right?
Oh,
There's people that
totally. Yep.
that we don't
I always say
sometimes
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
get along with. But yeah, we had a kennel, so the handlers took the dogs home, but on days that if you were going out of town or needed to put the dog up there for the night, we had covered, so they were
Yeah.
always always taken care of.
Are they neutered or spay, or like is that like a requirement either way of like not doing it or doing it? Just curious.
No, we don't neuter or spay them
Okay.
until unless they have a medical issue or they're ready to retire.
So at
And
retirement they do it.
hmm and
Okay.
a lot of times they if they may have like
Yeah.
prostate issues that we'll neuter them beforehand, which a lot of dogs do. But for the most part, we keep them intact and work them without any spay or neuter.
Well, and so what about your working years with Tambo? Like, how would you describe those?
It wasn't a bond overnight. I really had to work at that because again, this is a dog that, for example, right before I took him, another handler tried to take him home, and I've
Hmm.
told this story before in other interviews. Tambo got in the house, looked at him, and said, "Nah, you're not my guy." Lifted his leg, peed right on his wall, and needless to
Wow.
say, the next day Tambo was back in the kennel. So
Yeah.
the trust with Tambo took some time, and
Yeah.
I didn't force it.
Yeah.
I like to let that come naturally, and I think Pete he probably saw a little bit of himself in me,
Sure.
and
Sure.
I think that that's what he needed. He needed the right handler to kind of come along and bring out his personality.
Yeah, the bond is real. I mean, I get it. I mean, there might be a listener who's like, I don't really understand, but that's some real stuff. Like, there's no doubt that they teach us so much. And I always say that, like, when I got Marco, I had Tabitha first. When I got Marco, they got in one fight over food because Tabitha's the alpha. Actually, they used to use Tabitha at the doggy daycare and like all the kennels to help integrate it into the pack. So if there was a new
Hmm.
dog coming, she was the one they put them with first. So they got in one fight over food, and they never fought again. And they didn't hold on to it. They weren't mad at each other. They laid down with each other after. Like, why can't humans do that?
I say all the time I look at how a dog lives their life, and I think as
Yeah.
humans we complicate things so much,
Oh,
and
totally.
that's how Tambo's taught me so much over the last year, and just the way he conducts himself day in and day out through all of this.
Absolutely. So, I know that he's going through a serious health battle, and so tell us about the diagnosis.
Yeah, so he retired in 2022. He had a career-ending injury that he tore a ligament. He was
Mm.
creeping up to about 9 years old. We didn't want to put him through surgery, so we retired him, and it was good timing because it was right around the time of the birth of my son.
Oh, nice.
So and these dogs needed a job to do, and in a way, I think Tambo saw my son as an extension of me
Cool.
because when you retire, these dogs still want to go to work with you, and
Yeah.
that never leaves him. And so
Yeah.
we recovered from that, and then he had a double CCL tear,
Oh
chasing a
man.
squirrel in the yard. So he went through that surgery. Did an amazing full recovery, and we were rocking and rolling in retirement, doing a lot of ambassador work for Project Canine Hero, which I know we'll get into.
Yeah, we will. Yeah.
But it was a normal day. Came down, fed him breakfast that morning. He's very regimented still. He likes to get his breakfast at 5 a.m. I went to work,
Yeah.
and I never leave work early, Pete. And that day, I was just feeling very anxious.
Mm.
I was having palpitations, and I just said I can't be at work. And I told them I was leaving, and I
Yeah.
left about 2.5 hours early, and which I never do.
Right.
Came home that day. Tambo usually greets me right at the door. Wasn't there.
Mm.
I quickly went into the dining room, and I found him sprawled out. He had
Mm.
vomited.
Mm.
First thing I did was, I checked his gums. His gums were pale, which was indicative of blood loss,
Sure.
and stomach a little distended. So I knew I had to get him right over to the vet.
Hmm.
And so I rushed him over, and I didn't know what was wrong, but I knew it was a life or death situation. And they had came out and said, look, he had a mass rupture on his spleen,
Mm.
and he's bleeding out. So they need to do emergency surgery for a blood transfusion
Mm.
and remove the spleen. So I had to make the decision right then and there of whether I wanted to do surgery or not, because it was going to be a 50-50 chance if he was even going to make it through surgery. But knowing Tambo and knowing that the fighter he was, I knew right away that I wanted to go through that surgery and give him a chance. And so they did the surgery. they called me. They said they were going to call me within an hour and let me know how things were going. And they called me up and they said, "Hey, Chris, we got him opened up, and his spleen is absolutely covered in masses. He had
Oh
about
wow.
15 masses on his spleen, and they said from what we can feel, we think that there's masses on his liver as well, and we're pretty sure this is cancer.
Mm,
Do you still want to go through with the surgery?" And again, another emotional moment, but
sure.
I didn't hesitate, Pete. I said, absolutely.
Yeah.
I know my boy. I know the fighter that he is, and so they did it, and he was up and eating within 2 days.
Isn't that wild? That's wild.
It was wild.
Wow.
Already up and moving, and then 4 days later, biopsy came back, and they confirmed it was cancer, which was called hemangiosarcoma, which is known as the silent killer in dogs.
Yeah, I think that's what my Tabitha has. So, my Tabitha, the oldest, was given 3 to 6 months to live 2.5 years ago.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, so and we did no treatment, no nothing. Like, so she's now 15, and so I think that's what it is. But it's like, knowing that it's such a like connection that you have. Anyway, but Tabitha's in her mouth, and so she's. I want some advice. May I ask for some advice from you, because you're like the expert in this?
With the cancer?
Well, so she's like bleeding all over the place, but we're just like every day I clean all the tumors. Hers is in her mouth, so
She's got it in her mouth.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah, every day. Yeah.
Have you had them looked at, or like?
Yeah.
Right?
We did the biopsy. We did a biopsy, and that's when they were like said it's this like really aggressive cancer. That's why he was like, look, it's probably going to be 3 to 6 months because it just takes them really fast. We're at 2.5 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
Tambo and Tabitha, man.
Right.
So what's the update on Tambo's health, though? Anyway,
so initially, right off the bat, they gave him 2 weeks. They said this is a very aggressive cancer. If one of these masses form again,
Wow.
you're now looking at an emergency situation. And they said, oh, by the way, if you would have came home, 2 hours later, he wouldn't have made it. He would have bled out.
Wow.
So something told me to come home early that day.
Oh, totally connection.
Something bigger, and I know that was our connection. So
absolutely
got to the oncologist, and she told me the same thing. She said, look, chemo's not going to do much if this cancer's on the liver, which they suspect. Yeah. We're going to do an ultrasound, and then we can kind of decide the way forward. So she came back in and she said, I can't believe it. The cancer didn't spread to the liver like they thought. So he's a candidate for chemotherapy. So we started it that day.
Wow.
And he went through 5 intravenous sessions, once every 2 weeks up in Malvern, PA.
Okay.
And I made the most out of it because I took off of work those days, and it was kind of like we were back in it together. We were in the car together again, and I would always tell him on every ride, this is our biggest call. This is our last big adventure together. And and I started documenting. That's when I started documenting everything on Instagram.
Right.
And I didn't want to make it all gloom and doom, so I would do different themes every time for chemo. I did a John Cena theme, and we wore the Never Give Up T-shirts. I did a Rocky theme. I did an Ice Cube theme.
Yeah.
So we made it fun, and he started to get a really big following. But as we went through it, every time he was going back for a checkup, there was no signs of cancer.
Wow.
So this all started in July, Pete, and we're now in December. So this is a dog that he
is not giving up.
No, I've said he's defied the odds. He's kind of beaten every odds that they've put in front of him. Yeah. And with that, his popularity really started to grow to where we just got honored on November 16th by the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday Night Football. So they brought us out first time out in the first quarter, and kind of read over Tambo's story. And once they got to the point where they talked about fighting his biggest battle ever with the terminal cancer, we got a standing ovation from 70,000 people, which was amazing.
God, you'll
talk about goosebumps.
Yo, I have them right now. That's really and you'll have that forever. I mean, that's that's literally his, like, he's created a legacy. So he went viral. He's got this following social media that the Eagles.
Yeah, and I tell you what's symbolic the day before, about the whole thing is I've been using the Rocky Balboa underdog theme. He got his chemotherapy right outside of Philadelphia, got
Yeah.
honored by the Eagles, and that Saturday before the game, we ran the Rocky stairs in downtown Philly and got the pictures, and I posted them. So
So
how
cool.
symbolic, and they kind of ended the presentation with a Philadelphia fighter through and through, and the
Oh my
fans loved
God.
it. And
Yeah.
as they put the camera on him, he just started to bark more, and he just kind of came to life.
Oh.
And the more he barked, the more the crowd cheered, and it's just something
He,
that I'll have forever. That
he's-
moment.
well, they're such smart dogs, and he knew. It's like
He knew.
he knew just to get the audience going. And I'm not an Eagles hater, so that's good, even as a New York person. But I actually I love Saquon being there, and you can't. Hurts is just like such a cool guy. So anyway, it just seems like it's such a good way to honor Tambo. And so now you also have this Project Canine Hero. Want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so I'd met the founder of Project Canine here, Jason Johnson,
Mm-hmm.
a few years earlier at a conference. And for people that aren't aware what Project Canine Hero is, they're a national nonprofit, and what they do is they provide lifelong medical care to
Amazing.
retired police and military working dogs that have significant health issues. So what
Amazing.
a lot of people don't know, Pete, is that after these dogs retire, there's no pension for them, there's no health care set up. That burden of cost falls on these handlers, and
Yeah.
that's really when they need the care the most.
Sure.
So Jason and his team stepped in actually right on Tambo's first initial double CCL tear, and that was $7,000, and after rehab we were at 10.
Yeah.
And then his emergency surgery to remove his spleen, and for the blood transfusion, that was $9,000. And
Yeah.
then through all the chemo sessions,
Yeah.
we're now totaled at 30 grand that they've put toward his care. So,
Amazing. Yeah. I mean,
and
there's such.
they've been a lifeline. And I say all the time that I don't think any handler that has a dog that served our country and our community should ever have to make a decision with their dog based on finances.
Oh, definitely not. I'm really happy. I support that too, and that's really beautiful. I mean, they do so much for us, these animals, and so it's really great to hear that. So, Project Canine Hero, we'll have a link to that in the show notes, and maybe people
Yeah.
can support that. And so, I also hear that you finished a draft of a children's book.
Yes. Yes.
So tell us about that.
So if you told me a year ago that I'd be writing a children's book, I told you were crazy. So
Yeah.
this dog is inspired me in ways that that I haven't would never have imagined. And I'll tell you what started it is as I started documenting all of his stuff on Instagram, and he started getting his following. Cancer patients started reaching out to me.
Yeah.
People saying their dad's gone through stage 4 pancreatic cancer and it's terminal, but he didn't want to do chemo anymore. He wanted to stop fighting, and he saw Tambo, and that gave him the drive to continue to fight and to live each day like it's their last. And then mothers reaching out to me about their children going through cancer and looking forward to seeing Tambo's post, and that really hit me deep. And
Totally.
I had my son late in life, Pete. He's 3.
Yeah.
And Tambo is his hero.
Yeah.
And I know, I kind of, not to get in my personal life, but I grew up without a dad, and
Yeah.
sometimes, feeling small and stuff. So I wanted to create a book that inspired children, not only that are sick, that are going through hard times, but that have ever felt small. And, it talks about Tambo serving the country, getting sick, but then getting better, and then inspiring children and giving them hope. And
Yeah.
the book's done, just working on the illustration now, and I should have that out in early 26. And I'm about 20 chapters in on his adult book for his story. We're gonna do a 2-book series. The first one's gonna end at the Eagles game, because that was kind of our full circle moment.
Yeah.
And then the second book I'll pick up from there for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
So
That is what an inspiration. I mean, it's really amazing to hear that. And when you talk about the children's book, I mean, and thanks for sharing your personals. I mean, we all have something we connect with, and so obviously it's all full circle.
Yep.
It's all full circle. So you and Tambo are really such an inspiration and a great reminder just to keep, fighting every day, a reminder of resilience. So thank you, Chris, so much for being here, and give Tambo a big hug for me when you get that back downstairs.
I definitely will, Pete. And again, he's going to continue to defy the odds. And I told him we're not done yet. We're just getting started. So this is just the start of it, and I expect him to be around for a long period of time. And I'm a true believer in that. When you have positivity and you have the positive outlook on life, because doctors have tried to give him expiration dates,
Yeah.
I just respectfully tell them I don't want to hear it, because I believe the mind, body, and spirit is what keeps us going.
Amen. Amen. So where can people find, about you or Tambo or Project Canine Hero?
Yeah. So primarily right now I'm on Instagram, so you can find me on there. My handle is Canine Tambo. That's lowercase k, the number 9_Tambo, TAMBO, and then Project Canine Hero is also on all social media platforms, and you can also look them up on their website at projectcaninehero.org. And there's a slew of other stories about other dogs that they've helped that have been shot, stabbed in the line of duty, or other dogs that have cancer, and Project Canine Hero giving them that lifeline to give them a second chance at life.
Yeah, we'll have all that in the show notes. So Chris, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Pete.
Yeah. So thanks for tuning in. As always, if you like this episode, please share, and follow. Everything's at Official Dr. Pete. We have all the show notes here for Chris and Tambo, and we will see you next week. Until then, spread a little kindness and stay well.